Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the first session of our Student Success Series. We're so glad that you have joined us in person and on Zoom. And I want to introduce to you one of my favorite people at TCU, and it's Dr. Kay Higgins. She's up here in the Protect the Purple background. She is our Director of Parent and Family Programs and Associate Dean of Student Development here at TCU. And I am going to share her presentation with you, and she's going to take over, and you're going to learn a lot. Here we go.
That was perfect. I was about to tell you that I knew in a few seconds my dogs were going to start barking. So nice they started in the beginning and now they're locked out of the room. I'm thrilled that y'all are here. I can see some faces that of people online. I cannot see anybody that's in the room. So that's a little different. But we're getting there. I had planned to be there in person because I think in person in every opportunity is the best. But I was, excuse me, I was exposed by someone who had been exposed and later tested positive about a week ago, a little over a week ago, and so I've been quarantined. I'm fine. I feel perfectly normal. I've tested negative, but I'm quarantined, so I'm abiding by the rules and staying home. You heard Brienne say she was recording. You don't need to take notes. Not only is this going to be recorded and you could hear it again later if you wanted to go back and reference something, but I'm going to send you all these slides as well as some other attachments that can be used for worksheets for you if you choose to need those later. So I think we're ready. Okay, now that you're in college, building a strong academic foundation to thrive academically. I'll say from the onstart, it is not uncommon for students who have done extremely well in high school, whether it was a rigorous program or not, to come to college thinking pretty much I've got this. And that it's not that you can't do the work, but if you have the attitude of, I don't need to study more, the same or more as I did in high school, it could in the short run be very detrimental to you. So we don't want that to happen. The first thing in thriving academically is going to be set your goals. Years ago, I've actually been at TCU for, I'm in my 44th year now. And years ago, the admission office did a study to find out why a certain number of students that they used to project GPAs, they don't do it anymore, but they had projected that 88 students would have made at least one grade point higher than they actually made after first semester. So I was working in housing at the time, and we had all the hall directors interview these 88 people. And what we found, the only common denominator for these 88 people who had performed at a minimum of one GPA point or grade point lower than they were projected to, there was only one common denominator. It was that not one of those 88 people had set goals. that's kind of overwhelming if you think about the process you went through to go to college, the amount of money that people are paying to be at TCU, and to have no plans, just serendipitously see what happens. So that's not in your best academic decision. So set your goals. We'll come back to that. You must meet your faculty. Faculty at TCU teach at TCU because they want to know undergraduate students. If they wanted to only work with graduate doctoral students, they would teach somewhere else. But they enjoy the engagement with first, second, third, and fourth year students. They get excited watching the growth and development of people. Students who walk into one class thinking, well, I don't know how good this is going to be, and end up taking that subject area as their major because they found out they loved it so much. Faculty want to know you, and they will in fact know you, because whether they'll either know you because you sought them out to greet them. If you have an in-person class, you should walk up after one of the classes this week or early next week and introduce yourself. Your faculty will remember that you did that, because everyone doesn't. If you're online, even you could send an email of greeting and tell a little bit about yourself and how you're looking forward to meeting him or her in person after this period of our history is gone. So they want to know you, they want to help you. Which leads me to say, don't skip class. Because if one student comes to every single class, communicates with the faculty member on a regular basis if they have questions or concerns, or they just want to say, that was a great lecture today, or, oh, you mentioned that your children were sick last week, I hope they're doing better now. Some communication, that value, not only during the semester, but if you continue to keep up, it will be long after that. If, on the other hand, you go to one class every now and then and maybe just kind of quit going at all, they will know you too. And so when either one of you, the one who's always been there, always been engaged with the class, say both of y'all get mono, and the other person who's an occasional attender, over when both of those students go to the professor and say, I've got mono, actually you would do that in an email because you should be in bed, but I've got mono and I can't come to class for at least a week. For the student that's always been there, they'll say, not a problem. We'll make sure everything's okay when you feel better. And to the one that doesn't come often, that professor's not going to be killing themselves to be helpful because they don't see your investment there. Read every assignment before the class period for which it was assigned. I cannot tell you how many students, I've worked with a lot of students that have had unsuccessful fall semesters in particular. Sometimes I get to work with them before the fall semester is over, and that's really nice because sometimes we can make an adjustment and have a happy ending. But I will say to students, do you read your assignment before class? And some people look at me like I grew a Martian head, and they say, no, why would I do that? Well, was it on your syllabus? Did the professor list specific pages for you to read? Yes. It is assigned reading. Read it. That is considered studying. When I talk to students about how many hours they study per week, I'm often asked, does that mean reading? Well, absolutely, because reading is studying. I have to tell you this story. I had a student in my office several years ago whose parent actually called me before the end of the first semester and said that the trajectory that that student was on was not going anywhere positive. She was confident. And so I said I would meet with her student. And so he came in. I started asking a number of questions that I'm actually answering for you right now. I was going through my list. And when I got to about how many hours a week do you study? He literally thought really hard and finally said, 7. I said, okay. Is that 7 hours Monday through Friday or 7 hours on the weekend, including the weekend? Oh, I don't ever study on the weekend. I never would do that. Okay. I said, do you know kind of what the wisdom is on how many hours you should study? No. I said, 3 hours for every hour you're in class. And he looked and his eyes got really big. I could tell he had learned his multiplication tables very well, because all of a sudden he blurted out, he was taking 15 hours, study 3 hours for every hour you're in class. He says, 45 hours? That's a job. I said, it is. It's your job. He said, well, I can't do that. And I inquired why. Well, he already had a social life that had completely filled up his calendar, and studying wasn't going to be he wasn't going to be able to accommodate the schedule to be successful. At least at that moment, he didn't think so. So my advice is you start studying you average the number of 3 hours for every hour you're in class. Now that may mean that one of those classes you only need to study an hour for it, because even though it's a 3-hour class, because you're very adept at this information. You may have had it in high school, and so you don't, or you're very skilled at the subject and you hear it the first time and you know it. But you might need to take those other 2 hours and focus those with the 3 designated on a class that's incredibly difficult. So the reason I say 3 hours for every hour you're in class, it is much easier to start with too many, if that is the case for you, than it is to start with too few and try to add back. So if you look at 45 hours a week of studying, if you're taking 15 hours and you're making a 4-point and you want to slice off 15-30 minutes and see how that goes, you will find your beat and what is appropriate for you. But start with lots of studying instead of waiting to see if you need to. Okay. Consider 8 to 5 Monday through Friday as your primary work week. I'm going to show you in this next slide why this is so important. Oh yeah, I'm glad I did this. Before I get there, and I'll go back to goals because go back one. Yeah. I mentioned goal setting. This is a form that if you're taking Introduction to University Life, UNLF, you will talk about goals during the semester. And this is the SMART goals is the format that you will use. Is the goal specific? Is it measurable? Is it attainable? Is it relevant? And is it time bound? I will be sending you a worksheet so that you can do these later, but I wanted you to at least start to think about your goals that you have for yourself this semester. I would suggest one academic, one having to do with health and wellness, and then one in another area that's important to you. If you make 3 or 4 goals in each area, that's fabulous, but at least be able to articulate one and ask yourself these questions when you write your goal down. And if you can't answer them, then you need a different kind of structure, or you need to write your goal differently. Now we'll go to the calendar. Okay, I made this calendar out to pretend it belonged to somebody. And the way I do this when I work with students on academic success is to write in everything that doesn't change, so that we start with this base every single week when we're making our calendar. In this, and you will see, one of our rules is that you get up no later than 8 o'clock, regardless of when your first class is. Now, part of the justification for that is that you can sleep your days away and have nothing to show for it. But if you think about it, you've been getting up between 6 and 8, give or take, from kindergarten through high school. When you go to work, you'll be getting up anywhere from 5 to 6 to 7 in order to go to work after you graduate. I wouldn't want to get out of the habit of getting up in college, because then you just feel punished if you then start working and you have to get up like the rest of the world does. So get up by 8 o'clock, and I actually gave you an hour. If you had to be at work at 8, you'd already be late, but I'm giving you an extra hour in the morning. You wake up, you dress, you have breakfast. Breakfast varies, but you need to have something. It can be a breakfast drink, it can be a bar, it can be a full breakfast in Market Square, but you need to eat something early in the morning. Statistically, people who eat breakfast have higher GPAs than people who don't. It has to do with waking your body up. So in this particular example, this student has a history class on Monday, Wednesday, Friday at 9. And then next on that day is on Monday and Wednesday only, contemporary issues in biology, but there's a lab for that class, and it is at 1 o'clock on Thursday. The student then has lunch and then has rock to bach at 2 o'clock on Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and then English composition at 4 on Tuesday, Thursday. I put lunch in there because generally people need to eat at some point during the day, whether you've had breakfast or not. But even if you've had breakfast is the way I should word that. And I wanted to kind of mix them around a little bit to mention to you that hopefully you're starting to learn the pattern of people around the meal time. It's a little more stressful because we have a limited number of seats in all of our eating establishments, but we have this American phenomenon that at 12 noon, I'm hungry. I can tell you what time it is because, gosh darn it, I'm hungry. Well, if we think about it, there's a range in there that is a reasonable time to have lunch. So if it's better to go to the place that you're wanting to have lunch today at 1 o'clock because it's too busy at 12, this person has some choices. Because of the lab on Thursday, they needed to bump it to 2 o'clock. But if they had a substantial breakfast and or say a snack between calculus and the lab, they'll be fine to wait for lunch till later. The reason those numbers are at the bottom of the page, and scroll that a little more, please, down. Now, just is that all that's going to show?
That's all it's gonna show.
That's weird. Okay. Anyway, those numbers there, 5, 5, 5, 5, 5, and 6, total up to 26 hours. Because if you look at Monday through Friday, 8 to 5 is your primary work week. And that means you study in all of these spaces. You will have studied 26 hours just during Monday through Friday, 8 to 5, when you would normally be in school or working before you came here, or when you graduate, you would be working during that time. It doesn't show on here, I'm sad to report, but it will on the one you get. Just like you need to be up at 8, you need to be in bed, preferably by 11. I know you're shocked. I have students tell me all the time, oh, I could never sleep that much. Your bodies need it, and we'll come back to that. You need to do that on Sunday through Thursday night, because Monday through Friday morning, you're getting up at 8 o'clock with this schedule. What time students choose to get up on Saturday or Sunday and go to bed on Friday night and Saturday night is not a concern for me. You can mark it. Some people enjoy staying up. They like to see their friends and sit and talk. Others, it doesn't matter whether they've got 500 friends or none. They're going to bed at 10 or 11 o'clock because they know their bodies need that. But those two nights and those 2 mornings, you have choices. Next. Okay. This is hard to read. I get it. And we're not going to read all of it right now. But this is what I call life management instructions. And what we're going to look at in just a minute is explained right here. We put everything that's color-coded so that all the classes and all the work assignments, etc., will go in that same color, so that at any time you can look at a piece of paper and you know absolutely which classes you're dealing with the most at that time. I used to ask students to put 4 calendars, or 5, August, September, October, November, on your wall in your room and mark all your major academic events on there, so that you could visually just look at your wall and know what weeks you have a particularly heavy load or a particularly light one. If a friend invited you to come visit on the last weekend in October, and you look up at your calendar and the next week after the last weekend in October, you have 4 of your 5 classes have a test, that wouldn't be a good weekend to go. And you visually can see that in a second. I now use a document that there's a copy of in here, and we'll talk about it in a few minutes. And then you make your weekly calendar, the one that I just showed you, and then I'll show you how I filled it out in other ways. If you have a paper, some, especially first and second years in college, faculty are often prone to ask for pieces of your assigned paper along the way. And what they're doing is teaching you how you put together a paper. So if they don't give it to you, you can create it yourself. You set based on the due date. In the fall, let's say it's November 23rd, and in the spring, April 15th. You've got to back this up so that you start early enough to get everything else done and not feel rushed. Your rewrite dates are here because that means, and you notice that they're due, your rewrites are done a week before they're due. So when other people are pulling all-nighters and flipping out because they haven't started, you'll be like, oh, I finished mine last week. Because you need to have it finished 2 weeks in advance so that you can take what I call your final first draft. It's the one you would turn in if TCU didn't have a writing center. You take that to the writing center, you get some help on it, you do your rewrite. In a perfect world, you take it back through the process one more time, but at least you've done it once and you've made all the corrections and changed some language so that it reads better and you're ready well in advance of the due date. Then you back up again from the final first draft to when your outline is due. And then beyond that, before that, when your research is completed, when your resources are determined, and when your topic is selected. So if you know on your syllabus that you have a paper due November 23rd, and you get to September 15 or 20, and your professor hasn't said anything about it, ask. Say, I'm working on my schedule for putting together my paper, and according to my schedule, in order to get it all done in a timely way, I need to be starting soon. They'll be so impressed, they'll probably write it out, hand it to you with an autograph. Okay, next. All right. This is the same calendar that you saw a few minutes ago, but it's got on it some additional information that I described in the preceding slide. You see that history is in red. So you see some other red boxes. That must be history. Read chapter 2, and make flashcards. Let me say something about reading. Every book isn't the same size. You know that, but it particularly matters in school. If you get one of those giant, like a history textbook, that it's like a 12 by 14, and every now and then a half page is a picture, and the type is really small, you can't read that book as quickly as you can one that has very wide margins and the font is 14 or 16. It just won't happen. If you're dealing with an 8 font or a 16 font, it's going to change the amount of time. So my suggestion to you is when you first get your books, read for 15 minutes, set a timer, and when you're done, see how many pages of that book you read. Because when you start working on your calendar, you're going to need to project for that week how many hours you'll be spending on reading assignments. And you'll need to know how fast you read one book over the other. So I'm assuming that you got this timing down and you figured out you could read the chapter 2 in an hour and then complete the flashcards in an hour. If you don't finish, you should mark inside here in that red box where you stopped. And then the next time that you're supposed to study history, drop in what you still need to do based on the last time. Otherwise, you may miss it. Now, you can do your calendar online. Some people love to do it by hand. Some people think, the colored pencils. Thank you, thank you. I get to be creative, and that's fabulous. But, so either way that works for you is fine. Okay. So I also would suggest, you see study guide right here. Some professors help make study guides, or they will make one, and many do not. My suggestion is that at the end of a period where I'm saying that this week was covering chapters 2 through 3 in the reading and in the lectures, so that now you take, if there's a PowerPoint from the professor, your book and any notes you made, and create your own study guide, so that when you go back to study for the next history exam, you don't have to pull out your book and pull out your notes and pull out the PowerPoint, because you have consolidated all the information into one study guide that is going to help you. One of the things people do a lot in college is study in groups. I learned one day that some people think studying in a group means I go to the table with all my friends and we study our own subject, whatever that is. When you do group study, you're all from the same class. And this is a really good way if you're having comprehensive exams. If everybody has made study guides, then you can teach, each of you can teach a study guide to everybody else and give them a copy of yours. That is a way to share some of the work and equally, and then benefit from the work that everyone has contributed. Look at calculus. Calculus chapter 3 on Thursday, problems 1 through 8. I don't have to go find my syllabus. I used that when I was preparing this schedule. I have some English comp homework that I've assigned myself. I'm going to start my composition. It's not a refereed paper, so it doesn't need that schedule that I gave you earlier. It's a reflection paper that you just need to start it and finish it. So you've started it, you've done your other comp assignment. The next day, let's see, you do that on Tuesday at 2 to 4. Then on Wednesday at 4, finish comp assignment. Because you've scheduled an appointment on Thursday morning at the Writing Center to get some more perspective about your writing. You will notice I have WO in there 5 times during the week, once each day. That is for workout. It is very wise to schedule workout during the day. If you have been in class and then you've studied a lot and then you think, I'm going to go get it all out of my system, you should work out before dinner. If you don't eat till 8 o'clock, then you can work out at 7. But a lot of people like to work out in the afternoons, and that may not be in the gym. That may be taking a walk around campus. That might be a yoga class. That might be walking down Bel Air Hill to the park, to Forest Park. Excuse me, not Forest Park, Overton Park. That's at the bottom of the hill between TCU and Hewlin Street. But do something that gets you moving and gets your endorphins moving. It helps your heart, it helps your body, it helps your mood. If you're feeling overwhelmed, that's one of the fastest ways to feel goodness about how things are going, is if you get out and have some type of physical exercise. I'm going to stop a minute and see if there are any questions.
Y'all have any questions?
No, ma'am.
Okay. It's all making sense?
Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
Does it sound like too much work?
No.
No.
Oh, that's... Somebody said yes.
I think so. Yeah. Yeah, it sounds like a lot of work.
Well, it's not that much. You'll see over here on Saturday, I put prepare schedule for next week. Okay, where's the writing center? I will answer that in a half a second. Let me finish right here. Prepare schedule for next week. When you first start, it will take you a couple of hours because you are learning how to judge how much time you need to do certain things. But that means you no longer walk into your room, look at your backpack. Which book am I going to take out? Oh, I can't remember what I was supposed to do. Go look up your syllabus online. You need to print out all your syllabi. And when you're setting your weekly schedule, you are using your syllabi in one other document I'll show you in a minute, in order to plan what you're doing. But you don't have to waste time now trying to figure out what you need to do next. If you've got, let me see, even as little as 30 minutes, but definitely an hour, like between the comp assignment and dinner, or after lunch on Friday before you go to Rock to Bach, if you've got an hour, take something with you, not so you don't have to go back to your room, but you either stay in the building you're in or go to the building you're going to, or during the fall, if you want to sit outside, that's great. But keep studying in the intervening time. Always have something in your hand that you can continue to study with any piece of time you've got, Monday through Friday, 8 to 5. You would then come back, fill up your evenings and Saturdays and Sundays, and there are a lot of things you need to put in there. You need to finish fleshing out your study schedule. You want to spend time with friends. You want to put that in there. You may have errands. You may have laundry. You may call, I haven't decided which one of those I want to do is just my chill time. You can write chill time. That's fine. That we just know you'll be somewhere doing something you like, if that's what you want to write. But so you don't lose track of what you want to do or need to do, record it on the calendar. The most important thing to know about this calendar is you record what you plan to do that week on Saturday or Sunday. You don't write on this Saturday what you did all week. That's not helpful.
Hey, we have a question.
Okay. In the room?
Yes.
Okay.
Can we make time for naps?
Can you what?
Can we make time for naps?
Yes. Just make sure that you've put all the things for which you are responsible before you start marking in naps. And I will tell you, if you're sleeping 8 hours a night and you're working out, you won't be as interested in naps as you might be right now. You believe me?
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
So, say like we have a class like early in the morning, and it's like a 9 o'clock class, and like we don't have another class until like 1 o'clock or like 2 o'clock. Throughout all that time, we should be studying.
Well, that would be my suggestion, because what happens, I'll tell you the reason that a lot of college students don't come to college thinking about this as being how they're going to do things. You were in school, you went to school at give or take 8 o'clock, you were there all till you were dismissed, you went to your job, sports, volunteer work, whatever you had after school. Then everybody got home dinner-ish time, and I know that can be anywhere from 6 to 9:30, but whatever time people got there. And then after you had dinner, you started studying. A lot of students never think in terms of studying during these sections that don't have anything scheduled there. But what you're trying to do is to maximize time to be flexible when other people are flexible. If you don't study during the day and you have studying from 7 to 10:30 every night, then when your friends come up one day and say, oh my gosh, we're going to Billy Bob's, let's go. You can either say, I can't go because I'm not prepared for class tomorrow. Or you can say, oh, I feel like being irresponsible, I'm going. Or you can know that that's exactly why you studied during the daytime, so that you had that kind of flexibility nights and weekends. Does that make sense?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
You're welcome. Now, some of you will have jobs. Some of you will be involved in clubs and organizations. Those things you would add on as you make those commitments so that you remember, oh, such and such organization meets on Mondays from 4 to 6. So I'm going to put club name there because I don't want to assign anything else there now that I know that I'll be committed every Monday from 4 to 6 or 7 to 9 or whatever it is. This, you should have every single thing you're going to do on this calendar. Brianne dropped the website for the Writing Center right there, wrt.tcu.edu. They have some flex hours, and they have a couple of locations. So, and they have some different procedures. So you really do need to go to their website so that you use that resource to the best of your ability. Any more questions? Okay. Let's go to the next page. Okay. Well, that looks just like a calendar. You've already seen 3 or 2. This is something that I was talking earlier about hanging the calendars on the wall so that you had all of your major deadlines there and you could see it. You may still want to do that just for a visual reminder all the time. But if you look at this, and it's called Evaluations Long-Term Project Schedule. I named it that for this reason. Everyone's focused on what my grade is, what my grade is. I have to make this grade. This is making the grade. The reason you go to class is to become educated on a particular subject. In order to be educated and then successfully be evaluated for the amount of knowledge and information you gained, there is some usually written form of evaluation that you're required to do. The point is not that you make a certain grade. The point is that you learn the material so that the probability of a very high grade is there. So I don't want to call this grades because that's not the point. If you look at every number you write down as being an assessment of how well you assimilated that knowledge in your brain, the better off you'll be. Now, you see the word class up here in the left-hand corner? If you write the class, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 boxes, 15 hours. If you have a 1 hour class makes 16, you can use this line over here. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm going to send this to you. So if you have I know people in fine arts have a lot of half-hour classes, so you might end up having to have several categories, and you can just print these out and glue them together so that it covers everything. But you put the class on that line in the color that you have identified that class to be on your calendars. All these colors relate. And I encourage you to get pencils. If you're going to handwrite, you fill out your calendars each week in an erasable pencil. They also make erasable colored pencils. They're more expensive. So if you just want to get a number 2 pencil, then if the test is moved, for example, you can move it on this form and on your weekly calendar and etc. But you put the class like history, UNLF, rock to bach, composition, whatever that other class was, I forgot. Anyway, across the top. These, where it says number 1, August 17th, number 2, August 24th, number 3, August 31st, that means that is the Monday of that week. So say that on the week of September 7th, you're going to have a history test over the first 3 chapters of the book. You're going to write, and your test is actually going to be on September 9th. So you would write 9, 3 chapters, and anything else that you feel like you need to know there, but then save a space so that you can write the number which you were evaluated to have on this assignment. Because every minute of every day, you need to know how you are performing in every class. I actually met with a student a number of years ago after about 6 or 7 weeks of class, and I said, how are you doing in math? I don't know. Okay. Do you go to class? Pretty much. Have you made a grade in there? I don't know. I didn't look it up. I went through the list of classes. This student had not a clue if he was making A pluses in every class or F minus in every class. He had no idea. That's not good, because you always need to know where you are so that if you need additional help from a tutor or you need to go visit with the professor, you've marked all those things and you're prepared to go and have that conversation before you have a huge problem, not after you've got a mountain problem growing in front of you. Sometimes students will take the ostrich route. I know that I'm failing history, but I don't want to think about it. So I'm embarrassed, so I just won't go to class. When my parents ask me how I'm doing in history, I go, great, I've got everything turned in. I don't care how hard you try. The day of reckoning is coming. If you don't jump on the problem and see if there's a way to handle it, either you know what to do or you need to access resources to help you know what to do. At the end of the semester, everybody's going to know what you knew a long time ago but chose to avoid. And that is, you didn't learn anything and you got an F. And that's not going to be helpful. So I hope you will all promise me no ostriches in this group of students. If you've got a problem, take it head on. After you record every assignment all the way for the whole semester from your syllabus, then you can keep this with you in your notebook, or you can post it in your room. Every time you get a paper back, you put the grade there, and you continue to work down the weeks, and you can easily tell when you've completed this form which classes are going to have the highest expectations of your involvement in your time, and hopefully it's one or more that you really, really enjoy. But you've also got to get the other classes in there too, and make sure that you don't kind of let things stack up so that it didn't get completed in a timely fashion and now you have extra work. Is there any question about what to do with this? How that works?
No, ma'am.
Thank you. I love responses. Nobody else? Okay, next. Okay, I mentioned in that when I was just talking that you need to access resources. Student success resources. These are all on the Student Success website in the SDS, or Student Developmental Services office. This is on the website, and this down here at the bottom that says Fall 2020 Student Success Series. That's what you're in right now, only you're here for the first time. And that's where, if you're online, you can get linking information. But these will all take you to resources. Now, obviously, if I'm not a student in the Neely School, I don't need to click on that, because whatever concern I have, they're not there to help me. They are there to help their students. So whatever college I'm in, or if I'm right now a pre-major, that would be Adrain College of Liberal Arts. See what resources are there. I just mentioned that this is from the Student Success page in the, Brienne just put the link to Student Success Resources and Coaching right there in the chat. That is part of Student Development Services. This Student Success Coaching is actually where you go see somebody and you're academically coached. So whether you're going to need a tutor in a subject, or you want coaching in terms of how to be successful, the workshops that are going on this semester will impart, they may keep you from needing a success coach, because you're going each week and you're learning the things you need to learn. But by all means, if you're feeling like you're slipping, Student Success Coaching is fabulous. I mentioned the Writing Center, TCU William L. Adams Center for Writing. Some people need the Math Clinic. If you go to the Math Clinic's website, each semester, you can click on the schedule, and it shows who's working when. It's predominantly graduate students, and sometimes it'll have a notation that that person is specifically there for such and such a class period. But mostly they're there. They are usually either grading papers or doing their own work. But if they're in the room in the Math Clinic, it is physically located in the math department. And you can just go in anytime that the schedule says somebody's there. It is helpful if you go to each one of the tutors at least once and ask a question. Just because some people explain things so that Kate understands it, other people can explain things so that I understand it. So you want to find the person whose explanations you can understand the best. They may all be the same, then you're lucky, you can go anytime. But that's helpful information. If you have had accommodations or have them and need to declare them, Student Access and Accommodations is the website for that particular resource. Let me tell you, if you had accommodations and your testing is up to date and it says you should have accommodations in college, do not choose not to get them. I see students every semester that keep thinking, oh, I'm gonna be okay without it. It'll be fine. I don't need to do that anymore. Okay, we're about to run out of time, so next. Okay. I mentioned this earlier. I'm going to say it to you clearly. If you haven't done these 3 things, doing all the things we've talked about will not be helpful, because the machine that we call your body will not be at its highest performance. You won't feel well. You might be hungry. You might be exhausted. You might be many of those things. And you'll see over here that it says teens up to 17, 8.5 to 9.25 hours, adults 7 to 9. So wherever you want to put yourself, you still need at least 8 hours of sleep. So don't try to fool yourself that you can live on 3 or 4. You'll notice on Eat Healthy that half the plate is fruit and vegetables. And then you have a protein, you have some dairy, you have water over here. Very important. And then, as we discussed earlier, your exercise doesn't have to be in the rec center, but that's a good place to go. Okay, one more. Okay. I have included this characteristics of a master student, which you can read on your own when you get a copy, that it's just got some things to think about. I like a lot of the words, and basically I would sum it up as saying you are very intentionally engaged in your learning. That really is the summary. This page and the next one are the list of characteristics from the book called Becoming a Master Student. It is about you being in control of gaining the information, the knowledge, and having the experiences you need to be successful. Finally, the last slide is the whole series that you have the opportunity to attend either in person in Sid Richardson Lecture Hall 2 and or online, as many of you have done tonight. All right, is there anything that I did not say as we're jumping on 8 o'clock here? Any final question?
I was wondering, with the for us to attend these, will the Zoom link be the same, and we can just join, like, or will the Zoom link change throughout the time?
The Zoom will change according to presenter, so you will be notified of that information. Correct, Brianne? If you're going when they register.
They'll need to contact sds@tcu.edu for each one they're interested in attending to get the Zoom link, because it's each person presenting is going to create their own Zoom link to make it easier on the presenter.
Okay.
Can you register for all of them at one time?
I think you could register for the next 3 right now.
Okay.
If you want to do that, but we don't have every Zoom link ready just yet.
Okay. It's under that section where I was telling you that list of resources is at the bottom. If you just click on the series workshops, then that's where the link is that you can register.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. I will email you, as I said. And if you have questions, if you ever want to meet with me after that, I'll be happy to meet with you. I'll be back on campus next week. Whoop, whoop, happy. I hope y'all stay safe, follow all the rules, We want you to not get sick and have a great semester.
Thank you. Have a good
Thank you.
night.
Good night.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a
Bye, thank
night.
you.
Thank you.
I appreciate seeing those faces. Thank you.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you, bye. Have a good night.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Did Honora register?